Ahoy there, today on the Red Sea. Has anyone ever picked up a homeless person with a sign that says they will work for money? If so, what did you have them do, and how did it go? Oh, I can actually chime in on something. Yep, the first 3 said no when I offered a day of hard labor in exchange for honest pay. But they still asked for spare change anyway. The 4th said yes. Guy that agreed helped with digging up years old mulch, putting down plastic bed liners, remulching, and adding a plastic bed edge guard. About 3/4 of the yard is beds. So it was a lot of work. Dude really worked hard. End of the day. Paid him $300 for about 12 hours hard labor. We got done in 1 day what I was planning on being a 2-day job. And he broke down crying. He asked if I could give him a ride the next day to rent a motel room and pick up some new clothes. Sounded legit. So I gave it a go. He managed to get a job at the clothing store as a shelf stoker while I was there. Dropped him back off at the motel and never heard from him again. No idea what happened after that. It was about 8 years ago. I like to think he got out of whatever rut he was in and bettered himself. He definitely had the right attitude. My father-in-law had a homeless man that always stood on the corner near his place of work. He talked to the owner, they took the guy on as an employee, got him an apartment, and have him money to get some nice work clothes. It has been a year, and he has paid back all the money they fronted him, and is the best salesman on their staff. And he can support himself now. Some people really do want and need help. When I was young we had a homeless man sleeping in our garage for the better part of a year. On the way to school one morning I nearly tripped over him and was completely shocked. He apologized and said he would leave. We told him not to bother and that he was welcome to stay for a while. We ended up having him do a lot of yard work, walk our dog, and other odd jobs. We gave him a couple of old sleeping bags and an old TV for him to watch. He stayed throughout the winter and was a very nice guy too. He disappeared one day and we never saw him again. We got our entire wood floor redone and polished by one guy. He loved the work too. Cannot say it'll be a similar case for anyone else. Sounds like an alcoholic contractor to me. It's sad. I have known a lot of them. Very passionate people who just cannot even pay rent due to a severe problem. Back when I was in restaurant management I saw a guy holding a sign that said, "Homeless vet, will work for food." I took him to my store, bought him lunch, and asked if he'd be interested in starting as a part-time dishwasher. 15 years later he's still there. He works full-time and is quite possibly the best employee that I ever hired. A friend of mine lives in a not so great area of Chicago. From his front steps you can see the chair behind the bushes, frequented by many lonely gentlemen. One day he was solicited when doing yard work. Instead of shunning and chasing away this woman, he spent some time just talking with her. She ended up spending the afternoon weeding his front and backyard in knee-high stilettos and miniskirt. She had said that she was willing and wanting to do anything to make sure she had food for the family. I'm a carpenter. After moving to Hawaii I could not find work, so I held a sign outside of Home Depot. I got lots of jobs that way, and 13 years later I'm still friends with some of the people. A few people offered me money, but I never took it. I also never saw anyone holding a work sign around here, only the usual disabled, vet God bless type. I haven't had to do this for several years, but would not hesitate if I had to. Not all sign holders are bums. My dad did this when he was single in San Francisco. He needed someone to help him fill up a dump box. He said that the first 5-6 guys refused, saying that it was just a sign. Then he found someone who was really excited for the work, jumped at the chance, worked his ass off, and asked if he could use the washing machine/dryer while they worked and take a shower after he was done. Good guy. Hard times, but the rest of them were just lazy ducks. Your dad sounds like a top bloke. It is good to see that some homeless people want to actually find work and get out of that situation. Yep, but that experience means that no one in our family will give money to the homeless. Only food. I mean, the homeless in SF are just out of ducking control. It's a real problem. Picked up a homeless guy asking for work and took him to the house to prepare for a hurricane. He ate, drank and asked to leave as soon as we started working. He stayed under a bridge during the storm and was offered to stay at our place until the storm passed, but was worried we would make him work, so he ate for free. He did zero work. Yes, we offered him a place to stay and food for help. He was not holding a sign. We felt like we should put some food in him before we started working, and he got his and said "duck you." Nearly 20 years ago it was super snowy in the tiny town I'm from, and my ex-grandfather-in-law was driving up the street and saw a scraggly looking guy with a backpack walking along on the sidewalk. Ex-GFIL stopped and asked if the guy wanted to help shovel snow off his roof in exchange for a hot meal. The guy says sure, and they go and work for a few hours shoveling snow off the roof. They get done, and ex-grandmother-in-law serves a great meal of soup and sandwich and probably dessert. Cuss, she was like that. And afterward, the guy says that it was great and delicious and thanks, but he needs to get to work. Turned out he was the anesthesiologist of the hospital. The grandparents were a bit red-faced. Okay, so he did not have a sign, but the story is still good. A homeless woman asked me for money for food once, and I offered to take her into Chipotle for something to eat. She accepted, and once we got in there she started acting kind of weird, like maybe she did not want food after all. Then she started muttering under her breath. I thought maybe it'd been had, and I was like, what? Excuse me? She then whispered very deliberately and cautiously to me ... It turns out what she was saying was that she did not know how to read, so she could not order from the menu. Whoa. Luckily Chipotle is very visual, so I advised her to get a burrito and just point to the toppings she wanted. I left her with a burrito and a gift card for later. She was very grateful. Hard to get a toehold in life when you're illiterate. To sum it up, it's hard to get ahead in life or even order off menus when you're illiterate. A homeless guy I know said that he stopped offering to work for food and or chump change because he kept getting ripped off. Like, he'd go work for a few hours and the people would not pay him. I have had him work for me here and there, but I have always paid him up front or invited him to sit and eat with me first. He's always stuck around to do the job. He's homeless because his parents could not deal with the fact that he's gay and kicked him out onto the streets at 14. He never got into the drug thing, but says that the streets are wearing away at his soul, making him a worse person over time. My brother-in-law needed help scraping up carpet adhesive when he was installing laminate flooring in his house. He went down to the post office where the homeless dudes hang out, held up 2 fingers out his window, and there was a mad dash for his truck. One guy jumped in the back seat and slammed the door. Another jumped in, was pulled out by the next guy. He jumps in the front seat and slams the door. So they get to the house. My brother tells them what he wants, and they bust ass for like 3-4 hours. They all got $60 each and got a burger during a lunch break and did a stand-up job. Even helped him offload the trash at a dumpster on his way back to drop them off. I have offered to escort a homeless person into a local eatery of his choice to have lunch. He was standing outside of a local strip mall that had 5 different places to eat. He declined, citing that he needed money for food, and continued to stand there with his hand out for cash. I drove off. This isn't not exactly what Op was asking, but it's my experience with someone who was homeless. I used to live in a fancy part of town and our house had a covered walkway underneath it to give cars access to the back. One day an oldish man who had seemed to fall on harder times was sitting underneath there with his sleeping bag and some trivial things. I said hello, and when he saw me opening the door asked if it was okay if he could sleep here for a couple of nights because it had been raining heavily, and I said of course. The next day he was still there and we chatted for a while, then I went to the shop and got him a packet of sausage rolls, a big bottle of water and a packet of biscuits. When I gave them to him he refused, but I insisted. Then he started to smile then cry. He was a pretty cool guy and I rang up various shelters on what I could do or recommend him to go. But when I got home from uni again had left. One of my other experiences was being in Paris and seeing a homeless man begging for money on a bridge with his dog and his rabbit. I chatted to him in French for a bit and inquired about his obviously pregnant dog's health and offered him the rest of my chocolate pancake and he willingly took some. After that I walked off and he pulled out his latest iPhone and started texting. This was at the stage hardly anyone had one as they were the latest thing. To sum it up, I gave a homeless man my pancake. He turned out to be a hipster. I needed some help once at an apartment complex in Houston. There were 3 men on the corner down the street with signs asking for work. I offered them 3 hours of work and they were highly indignant. It so happens they make way more than I was willing to pay by standing on the corner begging. Not long after that incident, there was an article in the newspaper about how some of these people make as much as $1,000 per day, depending on the corner they were on. The newspaper even interviewed a lawyer that made more money begging. This was in 1990. My old boss had a side project shooting a short film. He needed 3 Mexican workers to pretend to be scared and run away. He picked up 3 guys at Home Depot, gave them $50 each, and bought them lunch at Subway. It turned out to be a really funny scene. I saw something similar where they hired Mexican workers to build a replica border fence and then get over it. Come to think of it, it may have been on the Daily Show or Colbert Report, or something similar. I told a homeless man to hop in my truck bed, 2-seater. Bro was riding shotty, who was holding a sign along the lines, "Will work for food." I told him we'd each give him $5 if he could make us laugh before we got to Crystal's, about 4 blocks away. He looked at me with a straight face and said, "You're gonna take a homeless man to the place that serves the smallest ducking burgers on the planet?" I guess they're right. Every own's suffering in this economy. We gave him $10 and went to KFC instead. A roommate of mine used to hate to do the dishes more than anything else. Hated with all his heart. We would have a rotating schedule on the dishes. As soon as it was your turn, you just needed to do all of the dishes, even if it was just one, and you were done. And it was the next person's turn. This roommate would wait until every single dish was dirty because he'd hate doing them so much, and every now and then he'd go out and find one of those will work for food guys and say he'd make him do the dishes in return for a bowl of ramen or something. Then he'd complain when items of his disappeared, and items of mine and my other roommates also seemed to disappear at these times as well. My friend actually did this in college. He has incredibly low street smarts and was just trying to do something nice. After getting out of class early one day, he said she was a moderately nice looking middle-aged lady, albeit a little bit dirty. She just wanted a ride to the supermarket and then home. Before getting out of the car, she looked him in the eyes, confused, and asked, "Well, is there anything you want me to do for you?" "Yeah, no." Before I just head off. Finally it clicked that that's how these things might conclude to, but he just said a really quick "yeah, no," and basically pushed her out of the car. God bless his Navy. If you are reading this, you made it until the end of the video. There is no more after this. Click the thumbs up button since you liked the video, because you made it until the end. On screen there should be some more videos similar to this. So either go do something else, or watch another video. That's it. I do not know why you are still here. What are you waiting for, a secret message or something? Okay. Are you ready? Water is God.